On January 1st, 1872, a large steam engine puffed its way across the Arkansas River Bridge and followed rails laid for the Missouri, Kansas, and Texas Railroad along the old Texas Road. The monstrous engine pulled to a stop at a location about 3 miles from the confluence of the 3 rivers. The depot, still under construction, displayed a sign that read Muskogee Station. The mostly Irish workers on the Katy Railroad let out a cheer to celebrate the milestone of reaching the midpoint of the line between Kansas and Texas.
Muskogee has great history, very interesting, but like a lot of towns in the American West, it started with the railroad. When the Missouri, Kansas, and Texas Railroad built its line through Indian Territory in 1872, that gave rise to the town of Muskogee.
Already a little tent town had been hastily set up, and at this moment, Muskogee came into being, kicking and screaming like a child anxious to greet the world.
Before Oklahoma became a state even, Muskogee was a very significant town. It was a college town, it was a federal town. The Bacone College came to Muskogee in 1885. It was called Indian University at the time. And Muskogee was really the hub of all of the Indian relations with the federal government, and that's part of what put it on the map and made it a very progressive town.
There was no doubt that this town, located at such an advantageous point, would make its mark on the territory and the states to come.
Muskogee was one of the largest towns in Indian Territory. It was considered rather sort of the unofficial capital of Indian Territory. The federal government had chosen to place its offices in Muskogee, and that brought a lot of Native Americans here to do business with the government. And so almost every town in Oklahoma, at least eastern Oklahoma, has a Muskogee Street because it all led to Muskogee. In 1874, the federal government decided to consolidate its agencies to the 5 different tribes and make it just one agency. So they chose Muskogee as the location because of the railroad being here. And so by 1876, they had built a building out on a hill west of town called Agency Hill. And that Union agency became very important in Oklahoma's history. It was the place where the federal government did business with the Native Americans.
Where 3 rivers, the wide Osage Trade Trail, and the territory's first railroad met, an amazing history was bound to be made. And it was. Though never a metropolis, Muskogee still played a major role in Indian Territory history. Few other locations in our state have had such a large and enduring impact as this small city that served as the capital of Indian Territory. Theaters supported veterans and artists alike. They fought wars for freedom across the ocean and fought battles for justice and equality back home. Here, the African American, Euro-American, and Native American cultures have slowly melded together to create a uniquely flavored community. As we can see from its history, Muskogee is unlike any other place in Oklahoma.
Because this was an area where a lot of freedmen had settled, Muskogee offered a lot of opportunity for Black-owned businesses, and we began to develop our own Black Wall Street. It might not have been called exactly that, but we did have a very large and very progressive Black business district. A lot of these wealthy Black families would send their children to Tuskegee Institute in Alabama, and from that we got on the radar screen of Booker T. Washington, the founder of Tuskegee. He visited Muskogee in 1905 and drew probably a crowd of about 5,000 people, not just from Muskogee, but also from all the smaller Black towns that surround Muskogee. It was a major event in Muskogee's history.
We were producing lawyers. I tell you, in Muskogee, I don't know how many lawyers we had. It was so many lawyers, so many medical doctors. You didn't have to go to look for a doctor because you had 2 or 3 doctors, Dr. Chandler, Dr. Smith, Dr. Tollett. You had doctors, dentists, lawyers. They were trained in manual training, went to college, came back, worked in the community. We had thriving businesses in Muskogee, both of the black community and the white community. We had a furniture store, grocery stores in every neighborhood.
Muskogee was really a happening place, a big music scene. We were halfway between Dallas and Kansas City. All of the jazz and blues players would come through Muskogee and usually would do a gig here in Muskogee. So it was a really exciting time, an exciting place for Muskogee.
I love this town. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else because people here, they're real. When I say they're real, I mean they're not fake. You know what I'm saying? And if they love you, they love you. And if they want to help you, they help you. It doesn't start with bringing in big industry and big business. It doesn't start with that. It starts with ground root people working together to make a better place for us to live. That's all it takes. It takes you and you and you. It takes us all. If we would just work together and produce and keep stuff going and work with our children and get them involved and get them to seeing that there's a better life and we can do. It's not about wealth and wealth growth. It's not about that. It's about making a life for yourself. Living in a good community where there's little crime and nobody hurting each other, nobody killing each other. That's what it's about.
You know, it's really iconic when you think about the Indian Bowl, and it's almost synonymous with Muskogee in general. Anytime anyone talks about Muskogee or talks about coming to the community, they talk about a little bit of the history with the Indian Bowl. It was built in the 1930s. It was a WPA project that was built behind Alice Robertson Junior High. You know, and interestingly enough, there was a track and a pretty good sized stadium. Is all actually what I would call concrete based. And after they had built it, there were a lot of teams that played there. The famous Jim Thorpe actually ran track inside our stadium and at the Indian Bowl, which was, it's also fun to, we've had movies actually filmed there. And so it's been kind of fun to look back at the history of the Indian Bowl. You know, the transition is always tough. You know, when you build a brand new facility, we just built our new Rougher Village, which has a 7,500 seat stadium and then a field house next to it. It's actually going to be on our high school campus. So when you think about the history of Muskogee and think about the transition from one place to another, change is hard for some people, but it also is a little bit of moving on. So hopefully we can do the same thing at Rougher Village that we've done with the Indian Bowl, and we're talking about it 150 years from now.
I think that Muskogee has a rich history that has to be capitalized on. I think the first 150 years was all about identity, finding out who we were as a people and what direction we need to go in. I think as we look at the next 150 years, it's about standing on that platform and being certain that we're better than we've ever been. The next 150 years is going to be about futures. We try to encourage our residents to understand that every decision we make now is not about this generation. The decisions we make today are about future generations, and we're working hard so that future generations of Muskogee, when they graduate from high school, they won't run across the stage in anxiety to leave Muskogee and flee for their lives. We want them to feel like graduation is just a starting point for what they can be in Muskogee, that they can have home ownership in Muskogee, that they can have a recreational life in Muskogee, that they can live, work, and play in Muskogee. And so we're working hard for activities, we're working hard for retail, We're working hard for homes, but most importantly, we're working hard for families because generationally speaking, everything that we do should be about generations, not just the one we live in, but future generations, those future grandparents, those future grandchildren, because we want everyone to know that Muskogee is alive and well, not just for us today, but for future generations.
I'm Jonita Mullins, and I'm a proud Okie from Muskogee.
I'm Jared Mendenhall, and I'm an Okie from Muskogee.
Well, my name is, I guess I am Doctor. It did take a little while. I guess I can go ahead and accept that. Coming from nothing, but I've become somebody because we've been living in a town that helped me to become somebody. Thank you, Muskogee. I'm an Okie from Muskogee, and I love this town. Thank you, Muskogee, for everything you did to help me and my husband and my children be what they are.